You stand at the edge of a crowded street, horns blaring, notifications buzzing, deadlines sprinting toward you. The noise feels endless, and yet beneath it all, there's a quiet whisper. Your mind asking for more clarity, more strength, more focus. You look around and realize something sobering. In a world this fast, if you aren't deliberately growing sharper, you're slipping backward. It's not about intelligence as a static trait anymore. It's about intelligence as a daily practice. And that's where your journey begins, because the science is clear, the strategies are available, and the responsibility rests with you. Your life is already full of distractions, but beneath the surface lies an extraordinary capacity, the brain's ability to rewire, reshape, and expand itself through what neuroscientists call neuroplasticity. You're not fixed. You are a project under construction. And the promise of becoming smarter every day isn't a marketing slogan. It's a biological reality waiting to be activated. By engaging in certain habits, you carve new neural pathways, strengthen circuits that fuel memory and focus, and even grow new gray matter. You stop accepting mediocrity as destiny and start sculpting your mind like an athlete sculpts a body. The first discipline you embrace is curiosity, because curiosity is the ignition switch. Think of history's great thinkers, Leonardo sketching flying machines centuries before airplanes, Marie Curie venturing into unknown radioactive elements, Einstein daydreaming in the Swiss patent office. What ties them together isn't a particular IQ score, but an attitude, never-ending wonder. You place yourself in that lineage when you refuse to let your mind calcify. It's not enough to get a diploma in your 20s and coast. The world shifts too quickly. Entire industries transform in a decade, sometimes in a year. If you aren't learning, you aren't keeping up. And the numbers back this. Studies show adults who dedicate just 30 minutes daily to new learning show measurable increases in adaptability and problem solving, even into their 60s and 70s. Their hippocampus, the brain's memory hub, actually thickens with use, much like muscles grow with resistance training. By contrast, those who stop learning show faster cognitive decline, not because their biology betrayed them, but because disuse eroded their circuits. So here's your reality check. Stagnation is a choice, and it comes with a heavy cost. What does continuous learning look like for you? It begins with intention. You might read a new book outside your field, take an online course in coding, study the structure of Renaissance art, or pick up the basics of astronomy. The content matters less than the stretch. Each time you explore something unfamiliar, you force your brain to knit fresh connections, building flexibility that spills into every other domain. The attorney who studies improv comedy thinks faster in court. The engineer who reads poetry discovers sharper creativity in problem solving. The nurse who learns a new language strengthens empathy with patients from diverse backgrounds. Curiosity alone isn't enough, though. You need structure. Curiosity is the spark. Discipline is the engine. Imagine setting aside 1 hour every weekday for focused learning. It's not scrolling headlines. It's not multitasking. It's immersion. Neuroscience tells us deep focus is where plasticity happens. When neurons fire together repeatedly, they wire together, etching skills into your mind. But you must show up consistently. Sporadic bursts of curiosity are like occasional gym visits. They won't transform your body. And random intellectual dabbling won't transform your brain. Daily engagement is the secret. There's also the element of breadth versus depth. Breadth keeps your mind versatile, while depth builds mastery. so alternate. Spend weeks diving deep into a subject that fascinates you. Economics, photography, philosophy. Then pivot to something entirely different. This cross-training effect builds what psychologists call fluid intelligence, the ability to adapt and transfer skills across contexts. It's why learning chess can improve business strategy, and why learning music can sharpen math ability. Every new discipline is a gym station for your brain. At the same time, embrace friction. You don't become sharper by choosing only what feels comfortable. Pick topics that intimidate you, that make you stumble through the jargon, that force you to reread paragraphs 3 times. That struggle is growth in disguise. The harder the climb, the stronger the neural muscles you develop. Too often people retreat to familiar comforts, staying in the echo chambers of what they already know. But the truly intelligent stretch into the unfamiliar, because they understand that confusion is simply the soil in which new clarity grows. You'll notice resistance from within. Your mind will argue that you're too tired, too busy, too old to learn something new. These excuses are echoes of outdated beliefs that intelligence is fixed. But research demolishes this myth. Adults of all ages grow smarter when they expose themselves to novel learning experiences. Your responsibility is to silence that voice of limitation with action. Open the book, click into the course, attend the workshop. Each small step compounds, like compound interest in finance. Knowledge grows exponentially when you invest daily. Let's bring this into your daily life with a clear practice. Set a non-negotiable learning window. Maybe it's the first 45 minutes after you wake, when your mind is fresh. Maybe it's your commute with an audiobook. Maybe it's the final half hour before bed. Guard it like treasure. Let friends and coworkers know this is your time. Shut down notifications. Put on noise-canceling headphones if necessary. This window becomes sacred, because within it, you are upgrading the most valuable asset you own, your mind. Imagine the compounding effect. 1 hour a day equals roughly 250 hours a year, 6 full-time work weeks. In 6 weeks of deep learning, you could master the fundamentals of photography, become conversational in a new language, or complete a professional certification. Multiply this over 5 years, and you're not the same person. You've built a new identity, a lifelong learner, adaptable, resourceful, and increasingly rare in a world that favors short-term distraction. Of course, learning isn't only about professional gain, it's about quality of life. When you pursue a subject simply because it sparks joy, whether birdwatching, cooking, or digital art, you nourish parts of your brain linked to creativity and emotional resilience. You lower stress, you expand empathy, you make life richer. And ironically, those side hobbies often circle back into professional brilliance, because a refreshed mind solves problems more elegantly than a burned-out one. Picture yourself a decade from now. You walk into a room full of people younger, faster with technology. But you are not outdated. You're energized. You've read the latest research, experimented with new tools, and broadened your worldview. Instead of fading into irrelevance, you're the person others turn to for insight. That future isn't reserved for prodigies. It belongs to anyone who adopts continuous learning as a lifestyle. Still, there's a trap to avoid. Information overload is not the same as learning. Today you can skim endless articles, watch hours of YouTube, or drown in social media feeds. None of that guarantees deeper intelligence. In fact, it often fragments attention. True learning demands synthesis. After reading a chapter, pause. Summarize the core insight in your own words. After finishing a course, apply the lesson to a project. However small, teach the idea to someone else. Retention skyrockets when you move knowledge from passive intake to active expression. Without this step, information is entertainment, not transformation. Another practice: cross-pollinate ideas. When you learn something in psychology, ask how it might apply to leadership. When you read history, ask what parallels exist in current politics. When you learn design principles, ask how they might clarify your business presentations. These mental bridges are where creativity sparks, when unrelated fields collide and produce fresh solutions. The future belongs to synthesizers, not specialists who see only one angle. So cultivate a mind that connects dots. Consider, too, the mindset of humility. Continuous learners know that every answer breeds new questions. They don't fear admitting ignorance. They relish the opportunity to explore. This humility prevents arrogance, the enemy of intelligence. When you believe you already know enough, your growth stops. When you admit you don't, your curiosity revs up again. Adopt what's called a beginner's mind. Approach every subject as if seeing it for the first time, regardless of your experience. This keeps your brain plastic, your perspective open, and your intelligence alive. It's worth noting that lifelong learning doesn't require expensive programs or elite mentors. Libraries, open courses, podcasts, and communities abound. What matters is consistency, not cost. A single committed learner with free resources can surpass a wealthy person who never invests time. So, remove the barrier of access from your excuses. The playing field is flatter than ever. You just need the will to walk onto it. Finally, reflect on the identity you're shaping. Every time you choose learning over distraction, you're not just gathering knowledge. You're voting for the kind of person you become. You're saying, I am someone who grows, adapts, and refuses stagnation. Over time, these votes add up, and one day you wake up not only smarter, but prouder, because you chose your evolution deliberately. So here you are, at the beginning. The world is still noisy, distractions still everywhere. But now you understand. Intelligence isn't a gift you're born with. It's a garden you cultivate. And each page you read, each skill you attempt, each hour you dedicate is a seed. Some sprout quickly, others take months. But with patience and daily tending, the garden becomes lush. And in that lushness you discover freedom. The freedom to think clearly, decide wisely, and live fully. Your mind, like your body, thrives when it is challenged, stretched, and put to work. Just as a muscle atrophies when left unused, the brain loses sharpness when it drifts through days of autopilot. You wake up, shuffle through routine tasks, answer the same kinds of emails, scroll the same feeds, and wonder why you feel duller, less imaginative, more easily fatigued. What your brain craves isn't comfort, it's exercise. And unlike the passive rhythms of routine, real mental workouts demand effort. You already know that neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, persists across your lifetime. But it doesn't switch on automatically. Neuroplasticity is like a tool in the shed, available, powerful, yet useless unless picked up and applied. The act of deliberate brain exercise is how you activate it. Each puzzle you solve, each new problem you wrestle with, each unfamiliar skill you practice is a rep in your mental gym. And just as muscles respond to resistance, your neurons grow stronger through strain. Think about it. When you first learned to drive, everything felt overwhelming. You gripped the wheel tightly, overthought every turn, panicked at merging traffic. But eventually your brain rewired. Circuits that once sputtered now fired smoothly, and driving became second nature. That transformation wasn't magic. It was neuroplasticity, responding to repeated mental reps. Now, imagine applying that same principle deliberately across your whole life. Every day, you can choose exercises that sharpen memory, expand reasoning, accelerate processing speed, and fortify focus. The trick is to treat your mind like an athlete treats training: structured, intentional, progressive. Athletes don't wander into a gym, do a random mix of curls and squats, and expect world-class performance. They follow a plan: warm-up, strength sets, recovery, incremental overload. Your brain deserves the same respect. Build a brain gym routine that blends variety with challenge. For memory, you might practice recalling lists backward or reciting names of new acquaintances without delay. For focus, try sustained concentration on a dense article without glancing at your phone for 30 minutes straight. For processing speed, engage in rapid mental math or timed word associations. For reasoning, wrestle with logic puzzles or strategy games like chess. Each domain requires targeted training, and when combined, they build a balanced cognitive athlete. Let's talk about the mental equivalent of resistance. In the gym, resistance is weight. For your brain, resistance is difficulty. If a task feels too easy, it isn't strengthening you. You need tasks that make you sweat mentally, where you stumble, backtrack, and feel momentarily lost. That discomfort is the sweet spot of growth. If you breeze through a crossword in 5 minutes, switch to a tougher one. If you've mastered one programming language, dabble in another. If you're fluent in Spanish, start exploring Mandarin. Constantly raise the bar. Without progressive difficulty, your brain plateaus. But don't confuse strain with pain. Overexertion can burn you out just as much mentally as physically. A marathon of brain games without rest isn't sustainable. Instead, use the principle of ultradian rhythms, natural cycles of energy that last 90-120 minutes. Within these windows, give full focus to challenging tasks. Then step away for a short break. Walk, stretch, hydrate. This ebb and flow mirrors interval training in athletics. Intense sprints followed by recovery. It keeps your brain fresh and prevents fatigue from eroding quality. Now, imagine the cumulative effect of a year's worth of such training. 30 minutes daily of deliberate brain exercise equals over 180 hours annually. That's the equivalent of a master class in your own cognition. Memory improves. You remember names at networking events, instructions in meetings, and details from books without straining. Focus strengthens. You power through deep work sessions without scattering your attention. Decision-making sharpens. You weigh options quickly, spot patterns others miss, and act with confidence. These aren't abstract promises. They're observable outcomes of neuroplastic training. Here's where science adds weight to intuition. Studies reveal that older adults who engage in regular cognitive training, puzzles, language learning, new hobbies, show increased gray matter density and improved executive function compared to peers who stay mentally passive. Brain scans literally display thicker connections in regions tied to memory and problem solving. The message is simple. It's never too late. Your mental gym membership is lifelong, if you choose to use it. Yet most people don't. They treat the brain as a passive vessel, filling it with content but rarely exercising it. Streaming shows, endless scrolling, and even light reading stimulate lightly. But they don't push. They're like strolling on a treadmill with no incline, movement without growth. You're here to go further. You're here to lift heavier cognitive weights, to sweat intellectually, to earn the transformation. So let's design your personalized brain gym. Start small. Dedicate 20 minutes daily to a deliberate cognitive workout. Day 1. Solve 3 logic puzzles. Day 2. Memorize a short poem and recite it from memory. Day 3. Learn 10 words in a new language and use them in sentences. Day 4. Tackle a complex article and summarize it in your own words. Day 5. Play a strategic board game, focusing on anticipating moves ahead, rotate, mix, and adapt. Over time, increase the load, longer sessions, harder puzzles, more complex material. Just as a runner adds miles or a lifter adds weight, you progressively challenge your mind. Consider adding novelty. The brain thrives on unpredictability. If you always use the same exercises, circuits adapt and gains plateau. Spice it up. Switch genres of books. Try different types of puzzles. Alternate between creative and analytical tasks. Learn a song on guitar one day, then attempt Sudoku the next. This variety keeps your brain alert, flexible, and primed for transfer learning, the ability to apply skills across domains. And don't underestimate the role of creativity. Creativity itself is a workout, blending disparate ideas into new forms. Sketch, write, brainstorm absurd solutions to ordinary problems. When you flex creative muscles, you activate brain regions in new combinations, strengthening their coordination. That's why so many breakthroughs, scientific, artistic, entrepreneurial, emerge from playful exploration rather than rigid analysis. Creativity is cross-training for the mind. Another overlooked exercise, mindfulness. Training attention through meditation may sound passive, but it's a demanding workout. Holding focus on the breath, noticing distractions, gently returning. This repetition is like a bicep curl for your prefrontal cortex. Research confirms mindfulness increases gray matter density in regions tied to attention and emotional regulation. Incorporate even 10 minutes daily, and you'll notice clearer thought, calmer reactions, and sharper focus. Skeptics may ask, why bother with brain exercises when life itself provides challenges? The answer is precision. Yes, daily life throws obstacles your way, but often they are repetitive, tapping the same circuits until they wear grooves. Intentional exercises target neglected areas, balancing your mental fitness. Just as lifting weights complements daily walking, brain workouts complement daily tasks. Together, they produce resilience, agility, and capacity. Now, zoom out to the bigger picture. A well-exercised brain doesn't just perform tasks better, it shapes who you are. The sharper your memory, the more reliable you become. The stronger your focus, the more consistent your achievements. The quicker your reasoning, the more confident your leadership. These traits ripple outward, influencing relationships, careers, and opportunities. Intelligence isn't abstract. It's embodied in every decision, every interaction, every creation. And daily brain exercise is how you expand it. Pause and picture yourself in a year. Colleagues marvel at how quickly you grasp new concepts. Friends notice how attentive you are in conversations. You breeze through complex tasks that once exhausted you. This isn't wishful thinking. It's the natural outcome of deliberate practice. You chose to treat your brain as an athlete treats a body, and the results show. So, where do you begin tomorrow? Keep it simple. Select one mental exercise that challenges you. Schedule it and honor it. Do not wait for motivation. It arrives after action, not before. Each completed session fuels confidence, which fuels consistency. Before long, the routine becomes identity. You are the kind of person who trains their mind daily, and that identity reshapes your destiny. Because in a world overflowing with information, the rarest commodity is not data, but discernment. The smartest people aren't those who know the most trivia. They're those who process, adapt, and create. Daily brain exercise ensures you belong in that group, not by accident, but by deliberate design. You hold a book in your hands, its weight solid, its pages whispering possibilities. At first glance, it seems simple, words printed in neat rows. But beneath that surface lies one of humanity's oldest and most powerful technologies: reading. The act of translating symbols into ideas is more than just absorbing knowledge. It's downloading decades, even centuries, of someone else's insight straight into your mind. It is still, even in the age of videos, feeds, and infinite scrolling, the most efficient way to transfer wisdom across time and space. Think about what happens when you read a book written 100 years ago. The author is long gone, yet their voice still guides you. You are connected to them, mind to mind, bridging eras. That transfer is something no algorithm can replicate. Reading is ideational osmosis, your neurons soaking up patterns of thought that someone else labored to shape. Each time you read, you're expanding not only your knowledge, but your capacity to think in new directions. But here's the truth: not all reading is created equal. Scrolling through headlines, skimming tweets, or glancing at quick blog posts is like sipping drops of water. It quenches nothing. Deep reading, on the other hand, is immersion. It stretches concentration, trains focus, and strengthens comprehension. Neuroscientists have discovered that deep reading activates multiple regions of the brain simultaneously: visual processing, language comprehension, empathy circuits, and memory consolidation. When you lose yourself in a book, your mind becomes a symphony of activity, and the benefits compound. Each chapter absorbed, each argument wrestled with, each narrative imagined, builds associative muscles. Your brain begins to connect concepts across domains: a philosophy book influencing your approach to business, a novel shaping your emotional intelligence, a history text guiding your perspective on current events. These crosslinks are where insight sparks. Reading doesn't just fill your head with facts, it rewires your ability to generate ideas. Now picture Bella, a young artist curled in an armchair with a book on Renaissance art. At first, she's simply curious. But as she reads about Michelangelo and Raphael, about how philosophy and politics influenced art, she begins to sketch differently. Shapes that once felt abstract gain depth and proportion. Weeks later, her gallery work evolves, attracting attention she never imagined. That leap didn't come from scrolling images online. It came from engaging deeply with a book that transported her into another mind, another era. Bella's story illustrates what reading does. It expands perspective, enriches creativity, and transforms output. And you? Imagine what would happen if you dedicated even 30 minutes daily to reading with intent. Over a year, that's 180 hours, enough to devour 20-25 books. Imagine the compound interest of those ideas stacking in your mind. You'd not only know more, you'd think more. You'd see angles others miss, craft arguments more persuasively, and empathize more deeply with people unlike yourself. Reading also strengthens your emotional intelligence. Literary fiction, for example, forces you to inhabit the inner lives of characters. You practice empathy, theory of mind, and perspective taking. These skills don't vanish when you close the book. They show up in conversations, negotiations, and relationships. Research even confirms that regular readers of fiction score higher on empathy measures. By training with novels, you become not just smarter, but more human. And yet, many dismiss reading as outdated. They argue that videos, podcasts, or bite-sized content are enough. But science disagrees. Unlike passive consumption, reading demands active construction. You decode symbols, build mental imagery, and sustain attention over time. It's effortful, and that's why it works. Attention, like muscle, weakens without strain. Reading is your gym for attention. Skip it, and you risk letting your focus atrophy in a world designed to fragment it. So how do you harness the full power of reading? Start by choosing wisely. Don't read only what confirms what you already know. Venture into unfamiliar genres. If you're a tech enthusiast, read philosophy. If you love biographies, try physics. If you prefer modern thrillers, explore classical literature. This variety forces your brain to adapt and broadens your cognitive toolkit. Next, prime your brain before diving in. Skim the table of contents, glance at chapter summaries, understand the author's intent. This warm-up creates a scaffold for new information to stick. Then, as you read, pause periodically to reflect. Summarize the core point in your own words. Ask, how does this connect to my life, my work, my goals? Reflection is the glue that binds information into memory. Without it, you're simply passing words through your eyes. And after reading, teach. Share insights with a colleague, discuss them with a friend, or write them in a journal. Teaching forces you to reprocess ideas, strengthening retention by up to 90%. Knowledge kept to yourself fades quickly. Knowledge shared endures. Create rituals around reading. Guard time like treasure. Mornings before email, evenings before bed, lunch breaks in a quiet park. Each slot becomes sacred when devoted to a book. Even small increments add up. 10 pages before sleep nightly equals 3,600 pages a year. That's 15 books. In the cracks of time you thought were too small to matter. And don't overlook audiobooks. For commutes, workouts, or chores. They turn otherwise idle hours into classrooms. While listening isn't identical to reading, it engages auditory rather than visual circuits. It still strengthens comprehension and exposes you to new ideas. Combine both formats for maximum intake. Environment matters too. Moderate ambient noise, like a cafe's hum or birds outside, actually improves retention. According to research, choose spaces where your attention feels lightly challenged, but not overwhelmed, and keep a book nearby always. Replace waiting time with reading time. Appointments, lines, transit, all become opportunities to stretch your mind. The deeper you go, the more you realize reading isn't just an activity, it's identity. Readers are thinkers, connectors, creators. They walk into rooms with perspective, into debates with nuance, into challenges with resilience. They stand out, not because they know trivia, but because they think in patterns others cannot see. Now, envision your future self, years from today. A shelf of well-worn books testifies to the journeys you've taken, the mentors you've never met but absorbed. You recall ideas with clarity, express yourself with fluency, and navigate complexity with calm. This didn't happen by accident. It happened because you chose to read, consistently, intentionally, expansively. So tonight, pick up a book. Feel the weight of possibility in your hands. With every page, you're not just passing time. You're rewiring circuits, shaping character, and unlocking intelligence. Reading is more than a pastime. It is the timeless practice of becoming more than you were yesterday. You slip into bed at night, lights dimmed, the day finally exhaled. Yet instead of drifting into deep rest, you toss, scroll, replay conversations, or mentally rehearse tomorrow's tasks. Morning comes, and you wonder why your thoughts feel foggy, why decisions feel heavier, why focus slips through your fingers. The answer isn't mysterious. It's sleep. In a culture that celebrates hustle, sleep is still treated as expendable, a luxury, a negotiable resource. But science leaves no doubt. Sleep is cognitive infrastructure. It is not rest alone. It is active renovation, pruning, rewiring, and strengthening the very circuits you rely on to be smart, creative, and resilient. When you cut sleep short, you rob yourself of more than energy. You rob yourself of memory consolidation, emotional balance, and clarity of judgment. During the night, especially in REM cycles, your brain organizes the chaos of the day. It files memories into long-term storage, strengthens new neural pathways, and clears metabolic waste that accumulates while you're awake. Think of it as nightly housekeeping. Skip it, and your mental house grows cluttered, making it harder to locate ideas, solve problems, or maintain composure. One disrupted night of sleep can impair attention and reasoning as much as alcohol intoxication. Reaction times slow, creativity wanes, stress hormones spike, emotional volatility rises. And yet, many treat these impairments as normal. Just tired, they say, while making decisions that affect careers, relationships, and health. The truth is stark. Chronic sleep deprivation is not toughness. It is cognitive sabotage. So, what does quality sleep really require? It begins with consistency. Your body runs on circadian rhythms, 24-hour biological clocks, governed by light, temperature, and hormones. When you sleep and wake at inconsistent times, you disrupt this rhythm, leaving your brain half confused about when to restore itself. By contrast, when you honor a regular bedtime and wake time, your brain anticipates rest, releases melatonin at the right hour, and carries you smoothly through cycles of deep and REM sleep. Next, consider environment. Darkness is your ally. Even small amounts of light from screens or street lamps can suppress melatonin. Blackout curtains, dimmed lights an hour before bed, and phone screens switched off early create conditions for deep rest. Temperature matters too. Cooler rooms between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit signal your body to wind down. Add a layer of sound control. Gentle white noise or natural sounds can block disruptive clatter and help lull your nervous system into relaxation. But environment is only one part of the equation. Behavior before bed matters just as much. Staring at screens floods your eyes with blue light, which mimics daylight and tells your brain to stay awake. Engaging in emotionally charged conversations or doom-scrolling news elevates cortisol, the stress hormone. Even late-night caffeine lingers in your bloodstream for hours, stealing deep rest. Reclaim control by establishing a wind-down ritual. An hour before bed, dim the lights, step away from screens, and engage in calming practices, light stretching, meditation, or reading a physical book. These cues tell your body, it's time to rest. Imagine sleep as a performance. Athletes don't step onto the field without warm-ups, and your brain doesn't slip into deep regenerative states without preparation. The better your pre-sleep ritual, the stronger your sleep performance, and the benefits show immediately. Wake from 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep, and you notice memory sharpened, decisions more rational, mood more balanced, creativity flows more readily. You feel not only rested but renewed. Now, consider the long game. Chronic sleep deprivation accumulates damage. It increases risk of dementia, accelerates aging, and impairs cardiovascular health. Conversely, years of honoring sleep provide protection, stronger immunity, more resilient mental faculties, and reduced risk of cognitive decline. Sleep, in effect, becomes a long-term investment in intelligence. It's not just about feeling good tomorrow morning. It's about staying sharp for decades. Some people boast, "I can function on 5 hours." Function, maybe, but not thrive. Research shows that self-perception of performance under sleep deprivation is misleading. People believe they're doing fine, while objective measures show steep declines in reaction, memory, and reasoning. You may think you're an exception, but your biology says otherwise. The brain evolved with nightly rest, and no motivational slogan can rewrite thousands of years of physiology. Here's the empowering truth. Improving sleep is within your control. Start by identifying your chronotype, whether you're naturally an early bird, night owl, or somewhere in between. Then design your schedule to align with it. Early birds might prioritize early morning work sessions, while night owls might carve creative hours later in the evening, but both still need consistent, sufficient sleep duration. Experiment with small adjustments. Track how you feel after shifting bedtime earlier by 30 minutes. Notice your energy after cutting caffeine 6 hours before sleep. Try replacing evening screen time with journaling. These micro-experiments help you craft a personal sleep system that fits your biology rather than fighting it. And don't underestimate naps. A short 20-30-minute nap can restore alertness, boost memory, and improve performance without interfering with nighttime rest. Think of naps as pit stops, quick recharges that keep your brain humming when the day grows heavy. Sleep is also inseparable from emotional well-being. Lack of rest heightens activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, making you more reactive, more anxious, more irritable. Adequate sleep restores balance, strengthening your prefrontal cortex's ability to regulate emotions. This is why well-rested people respond with patience, where the sleep-deprived snap in frustration. Sleep is emotional intelligence in disguise. Now, visualize yourself mastering sleep hygiene. You set aside devices an hour before bed, dim the lights, stretch gently, and open a book. The room is cool and dark, a cocoon against the world. You drift into deep sleep, cycle through REM, and wake with clarity, calm, and vigor. Instead of dragging yourself through another fatigued day, you stride into it with focus. And the cycle repeats, not by accident, but by design. The choice is stark but simple. You can cling to the burnout culture that glorifies exhaustion, sacrificing long-term intelligence for short-term output. Or you can embrace sleep as your most reliable cognitive enhancer, free of cost and available nightly. Every decision, every creative leap, every emotional connection tomorrow rests on what you do tonight. So tonight, let the hustle wait. Turn the lights low, step away from the noise, and honor your brain's ancient rhythm. Sleep is not surrender. It is strategy. It is the hidden superpower that sharpens your mind, fuels your growth, and prepares you for the brilliance still ahead. The first time you touch a musical instrument, it feels awkward. Fingers stumble across strings. Breath wavers through a flute. Drumsticks clatter out of rhythm. Yet within that clumsy beginning lies a powerful key to cognitive growth. Playing music is more than art. It is one of the most effective full-brain workouts known to science. Every note you attempt requires your auditory system to listen, your motor cortex to move, your memory to recall, and your emotions to infuse meaning. This integration lights up the brain like few other activities can. Consider what happens when you practice even a simple melody. Your eyes scan notation, or your ears recall a tune. Your hands coordinate fine motor movements. Your brain predicts timing and adjusts in real time. Neural circuits across hemispheres fire together, strengthening connections between language, memory, spatial reasoning, and emotional regulation. Over months and years, this constant interplay builds a brain that is not just musically skilled, but cognitively superior, faster at problem solving, sharper at focus, richer in creativity. Neuroscientists have documented that musicians often show increased volume in the corpus callosum, the bridge between brain hemispheres. This means they can transfer information across left and right sides more efficiently. Imagine the practical effects: quicker decision-making, greater flexibility in thinking, stronger pattern recognition, and you don't need to become a concert pianist to reap these rewards. Even modest practice reshapes your neural architecture. Beyond the science lies something deeply human. Music speaks a language that words cannot fully capture. It stirs emotions, connects cultures, and reflects our shared experiences. When you play, you aren't just training circuits, you are participating in a timeless form of expression. That combination of technical challenge and emotional depth is what makes instruments such powerful catalysts for intelligence. Think of a child learning violin. At first, the sound is rough, patience thin. But with persistence, notes align, melodies form, confidence grows. Studies show that children who study instruments often outperform peers in memory tests, language learning, and math reasoning. Why? Because the brain doesn't compartmentalize skills. The discipline, attention, and pattern recognition honed in music spill into academics. Adults benefit too. Middle-aged learners who pick up instruments show improved working memory and delayed cognitive decline. It is never too late to begin. Practical application starts with choice. Select an instrument that fits your lifestyle and sparks your interest. If portability matters, try a guitar or harmonica. If you crave rhythm, explore percussion. If you're drawn to melody, a piano or keyboard provides rich ground. Budget and space matter, yes, but passion matters more. When you love the sound you produce, even imperfectly, you'll return to practice. Then, start simple. Learn basic scales, a few chords, or a short melody. Focus on precision before speed. This mirrors the principle of deliberate practice. Slow, intentional, repetitive focus on small units of skill. Each accurate repetition lays down stronger neural wiring. As fluency grows, complexity can follow. Don't rush. In music, mastery is a marathon, not a sprint. Incorporate variety. Practice technical drills, but also play songs you enjoy. Technical work builds foundation. Favorite pieces sustain motivation. Alternate between both to keep practice effective and enjoyable. And remember, consistency matters more than duration. 15 minutes daily beats 2 hours once a week. The brain learns best through regular reinforcement. You can also blend learning modes, use method books, online tutorials, and teacher feedback. Play along with recordings to develop timing. Record yourself to spot errors. Join ensembles or jam with friends to practice synchronization and adaptability. These layers turn solitary practice into social and dynamic training. And never underestimate the emotional impact. Music making enhances mood, reduces stress, and builds resilience. When you play after a long day, your mind shifts from scattered thoughts to focused flow. Stress hormones decline, dopamine and endorphins rise. This emotional regulation is itself a cognitive advantage. A calmer mind thinks more clearly. Visualize yourself 6 months into practice. Your fingers move more naturally, melodies emerge, and frustration has transformed into flow. You notice that your concentration at work has improved too. You retain details more easily, switch tasks with less fatigue, and approach problems with creativity. The music has trained your brain beyond the instrument, and years down the line, imagine the richness. You sit at a piano and play for friends, or pick up a guitar at a gathering. Not only do you connect socially, but your mind remains agile, your memory sharp, your emotional intelligence high. You've invested in an art that doubled as brain insurance. Remember this truth: you don't need talent, you need practice. Innate ability is overrated. Consistency, patience, and curiosity matter far more. Every stumble is a step. Every wrong note is part of the path. Over time, they add up to mastery, and mastery adds up to intelligence. So, pick up that instrument. Let clumsy beginnings give way to graceful progress. As you train your fingers and ears, you train your brain. Music is not just sound. It is structure, emotion, and growth woven together. And when you make music, you make yourself smarter, more resilient, and more alive. You lace up your shoes, step outside, and feel the air against your skin. The ground beneath you seems ordinary, yet every stride you take carries extraordinary consequences inside your brain. Movement is not just about shaping the body. It is about shaping intelligence. Physical exercise, especially consistent cardiovascular activity, acts like rocket fuel for your cognition. Each time your heart pumps faster, your brain receives more oxygen, more nutrients, and more growth factors that literally expand its capacity to think, remember, and create. The link between body and brain is undeniable. When you exercise, levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, surge. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your neurons. It nourishes existing cells and encourages the growth of new ones. Studies have shown that people who engage in regular aerobic exercise increase gray matter density in regions tied to memory and executive function. That means sharper recall, stronger focus, and quicker decision-making. Exercise is not an optional add-on to intelligence. It is one of its foundations. Consider walking, the simplest form of movement. History is filled with thinkers who relied on walks to spark breakthroughs. Charles Darwin developed theories on long strolls around his property. Steve Jobs famously held walking meetings to generate creative ideas. When you walk, your body engages in rhythmic movement that calms stress hormones while simultaneously activating brain regions involved in imagination and insight. It is no coincidence that some of your best ideas arrive mid-walk, when you aren't trying to force them. And it isn't only walking, running, swimming, cycling, dancing. All elevate heart rate, all boost circulation, all generate the same cascade of brain-enhancing chemistry. Even strength training contributes, improving blood flow and hormone balance that stabilizes mood and enhances focus. The specific activity matters less than the commitment to move daily. But there's more. Exercise is also a shield against decline. Cognitive aging, once thought inevitable, is slowed dramatically by physical activity. Active adults in their 60s, 70s, and beyond often show memory performance comparable to much younger peers. Regular movement strengthens the hippocampus, the very structure most vulnerable to age-related shrinkage. In essence, every workout is a down payment on your future clarity. Yet too often, people imagine intelligence as purely mental, disconnected from the body. They neglect exercise, believing it irrelevant to brain power. But the evidence is overwhelming. A sedentary lifestyle suffocates cognition. Without movement, blood flow stagnates, stress hormones linger, and neural growth dwindles. Brain fog creeps in, not because you lack capacity, but because you starved your circuits of fuel. So how do you integrate exercise into your life with intention? Start with simplicity. You don't need elaborate gyms or extreme regimens. A brisk 30-minute walk most days delivers measurable benefits. Add bodyweight circuits, push-ups, squats, planks, twice a week, and you reinforce strength, balance, and resilience. Once these habits feel natural, you can expand. Cycling, swimming, yoga, resistance training. Choose activities you enjoy, so consistency feels less like a burden and more like a gift. Timing matters too. Morning exercise often provides a double win. It boosts metabolism while consolidating the restorative effects of REM sleep, leaving you sharper for the day ahead. If you're not a morning person, lunchtime or early evening movement can still provide powerful returns. Pay attention to your chronotype, whether you feel energized early or late, and align exercise accordingly. Environment shapes results as well. Training outdoors provides not just physical exertion, but sensory enrichment. Trees, fresh air, natural light, and varied terrain stimulate the nervous system in ways sterile gyms cannot. Research shows that exercising in green spaces reduces cortisol more effectively and enhances creativity. A run through a park may do more for your mind than an hour on a treadmill facing a blank wall. But consistency beats perfection. Missed workouts don't erase progress. Resuming the next day keeps momentum alive. Frame exercise not as punishment for indulgence, but as celebration of capacity. Each time you move, remind yourself, this is brain fuel. This is mental clarity. This is the smartest investment I can make. The benefits extend beyond intelligence into mood and resilience. Exercise regulates serotonin and dopamine, neurotransmitters that influence motivation and happiness. It lowers cortisol, reducing the corrosive effects of chronic stress on your prefrontal cortex. That means clearer thinking under pressure, calmer responses to conflict, and stronger emotional control. An exercised body carries an exercised mind, ready to adapt rather than crumble. And creativity? Movement unlocks it. Many innovations are born not at desks, but during physical activity. The mind wanders productively when the body is in motion, connecting ideas that seemed unrelated. This state, sometimes called flow, emerges when you lose yourself in rhythm, whether running on trails, swimming laps, or dancing freely. It is both liberating and fertile ground for breakthroughs. Think ahead 5 years. Imagine yourself consistently active, cycling 3 times a week, lifting weights twice, walking daily. You look healthier, yes. But more importantly, you think healthier. Memory lapses that plague others your age rarely trouble you. Your creativity continues to blossom. You approach challenges with energy rather than fatigue. This is the compounded result of years of investment in movement. Now shrink the perspective. Imagine tomorrow morning. You wake sluggish, tempted to skip exercise. But you lace up anyway, step outside, and walk briskly. 15 minutes in, your breathing steadies, your heart finds rhythm, your mind clears. By the time you finish, you feel sharper, lighter, more optimistic. That shift, accessible daily, is proof of exercise's power. Practical strategies help you stay on course. Schedule movement like an appointment, not an option. Pair it with triggers. Stretch immediately after brushing teeth. Walk during calls. Squat during breaks. Make it social. Join a class. Walk with a friend. Dance with your partner. Accountability fuels persistence. Track progress. Not just for body metrics, but for mental outcomes. Note how focus and mood improve on active days. Exercise doesn't demand perfection. It demands presence. Each step, lift, or stretch is a vote for the kind of brain you want to carry into the future. Ignore movement, and you invite decline. Embrace it, and you unlock clarity, resilience, and brilliance far beyond what sedentary life allows. So, tomorrow, don't think of exercise as optional. Think of it as intellectual armor, creativity's catalyst, memory's ally. Move your body, and your mind will follow, faster, sharper, stronger. The smartest version of you is waiting on the other side of that next workout. You sit at your desk, a list of tasks sprawled in front of you, and the hours slip away faster than your focus can hold them. Notifications flicker, conversations distract, and suddenly, the day feels fractured. Productivity isn't just about doing more. It's about doing the right things with clarity and energy. To become smarter every day, you must also learn how to structure effort so that it compounds rather than dissipates. Intelligence without productivity is potential without expression. You already carry insights and skills. Now it's about channeling them with precision. Think of productivity as architecture for your mind. Brilliance needs scaffolding to rise higher. You don't pile bricks randomly and expect a cathedral. You place each block with intent. The same applies to hours in your day. When you design structure, you protect focus, direct energy, and create an environment where intelligence can thrive. And just as importantly, you avoid the traps that drain sharpness, multitasking, clutter, decision fatigue. Science confirms that the brain functions in cycles, known as ultradian rhythms. Every 90 to 120 minutes, your capacity for deep focus peaks and then dips. Trying to power through endlessly is like sprinting a marathon. It guarantees exhaustion. The smarter strategy is to align work with these rhythms. Concentrated sprints of focus, followed by brief breaks. 90 minutes of immersion, then 10 minutes to stretch, hydrate, breathe. This isn't laziness, it's physiological optimization. Studies show productivity and creativity soar when effort and rest alternate in harmony. Consider how athletes train. They don't lift non-stop for hours. They lift in sets, rest, then lift again. Your brain is no different. By working in focused intervals, you not only sustain energy, but also prime memory consolidation. Ideas planted during sprints continue to germinate during breaks, often surfacing as insights when you least expect them. This is why walking away from a problem sometimes brings the solution. Now think about your workspace. Is it designed to sharpen or scatter you? A desk crowded with papers, buzzing with alerts, facing constant interruptions is like a gym with broken equipment. It sabotages progress. Create a frictionless environment. Clear physical clutter. Use noise-canceling headphones or ambient sound to block distractions. Position screens at eye level to prevent fatigue. Even adjusting lighting can shift alertness. Natural light fuels focus, while dim, warm tones signal wind down. Your environment should whisper one message. This is where you do your best thinking. Digital tools can either be allies or enemies. Left unmanaged, they fracture attention with endless pings, but used wisely, they streamline. Consider apps that block distracting websites during focus intervals, or task managers that prioritize the 3 most important actions daily. Don't fall into the trap of micromanaging productivity apps themselves. That's a distraction, disguised as work. The point is simplicity. Reduce decision load, surface priorities, and keep attention on execution. Mindset matters just as much as mechanics. Productivity thrives on clarity of purpose. Without a why, focus crumbles. Begin each day by identifying 1 or 2 tasks that truly move the needle. Ask, if I only accomplish these, will today still feel meaningful? This question forces you to separate signal from noise. And once you identify these priorities, protect them fiercely. Treat them as immovable appointments, non-negotiable, shielded from distraction. Another overlooked lever is energy management. Productivity is not about squeezing hours. It's about aligning tasks with natural energy peaks. High-focus tasks belong in your prime hours, while routine or administrative work can fill lower energy slots. Pay attention to your rhythms. When are you sharpest? When do you fade? Structure accordingly. This alignment multiplies output without lengthening days. Breaks are not indulgences but investments. Step outside, breathe fresh air, or move your body. Even a 5-minute walk resets neural circuits. Nutrition also matters. Stable blood sugar supports sustained focus. Replace heavy lunches that fog the mind with balanced meals that energize. Hydrate consistently. A dehydrated brain is a sluggish brain. Consider the role of accountability. Athletes track reps. You can track progress. Journaling accomplishments at day's end reinforces momentum. Sharing goals with peers or mentors builds external commitment. Accountability transforms intentions into actions. Now picture yourself applying these principles. Morning arrives. You resist diving straight into email. Instead, you outline your top priorities, set a 90-minute timer, and immerse. You silence notifications, clear your desk, and let focus deepen. When the timer rings, you step away, stretch, hydrate, returning refreshed. You tackle the next interval. By afternoon, instead of exhaustion, you feel steady because you worked with rhythm rather than against it. Productivity also requires self-compassion. Some days derail despite preparation. Unexpected crises, shifting demands, personal fatigue, they happen. The goal isn't perfection, it's persistence. Reset quickly. Ask, what one action can I still complete today to move forward? Small wins compound over time. Here's a truth few admit. Productivity is not about working harder, but about working smarter. And often, that means working less. Deep work outperforms shallow multitasking every time. Protecting focus may mean saying no to commitments that scatter attention. Every yes carries an opportunity cost. Guard your energy as fiercely as your time. Imagine the long-term effects. Over months, structured intervals sharpen your concentration, like a blade honed daily. Projects once overwhelming become manageable through consistent progress. Stress lessens because you no longer juggle endlessly. You execute deliberately. And colleagues, noticing your calm effectiveness, begin to see you as reliable, innovative, and clear-headed. This reputation becomes an asset, opening doors, attracting opportunities, and amplifying influence. Let's extend the vision further. Years from now, you'll look back and see that productivity was not about output alone, but identity. You became someone who honors focus, who aligns effort with purpose, who respects both energy and rest. This identity sustains intelligence not just in bursts, but across a lifetime. So, take a breath. Look at your day with fresh eyes. You are not at the mercy of distractions. You are the architect of attention. By structuring your time with rhythm, shaping your space with intent, and aligning effort with purpose, you unlock not just productivity, but smarter living. Intelligence becomes visible, not in what you know, but in what you create, complete, and contribute. You sit down to eat, perhaps without much thought, and yet the choice of what you place on your plate may be one of the most decisive acts shaping your intelligence. Food is not merely fuel for your body. It is the raw material that builds your brain. Every neuron, every neurotransmitter, every synaptic spark depends on the quality of nutrients you provide. A sharp, resilient mind cannot be constructed from empty calories or processed fillers. It demands real nourishment. Imagine the brain as the most sophisticated engine ever designed. It runs not on gasoline, but on glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, vitamins, minerals, and water. When those inputs are clean and balanced, the engine hums, delivering focus, creativity, and emotional stability. When they're polluted, laden with refined sugars, trans fats, preservatives, the engine sputters. You feel foggy, irritable, sluggish. Intelligence doesn't vanish, but it hides beneath biochemical chaos. Whole foods, in their natural states, provide the nutrients your brain craves. Leafy greens deliver folate that supports neurotransmitter balance. Fatty fish like salmon and sardines supply omega-3s that strengthen cell membranes, improving the speed and clarity of neural communication. Nuts and seeds offer vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant that shields neurons from damage. These foods don't just prevent decline, they actively build capacity. Think of each meal as a construction project for your future brain. Contrast this with heavily processed foods. They often combine excessive sugar, unhealthy fats, and synthetic additives in ways that hijack your biology. They spike blood sugar rapidly, then crash it, leaving you distracted and fatigued. They inflame the body, including the brain, disrupting neurotransmitters that regulate mood and focus. And over years, they accelerate cognitive decline, increasing risk for conditions like dementia. No pill or supplement can fully undo the harm of a diet dominated by such choices. Hydration is equally crucial. Your brain is roughly 75% water. Even mild dehydration, just 2% loss, impairs memory, attention, and mood. Yet many people drift through their days underhydrated, mistaking thirst for fatigue or hunger. A simple habit of drinking water consistently throughout the day is one of the cheapest, most effective cognitive enhancers available. Protein provides building blocks for neurotransmitters. Foods like eggs, yogurt, lean meats, and legumes supply amino acids that become dopamine, serotonin, and acetylcholine, the very chemicals that govern motivation, calm, and memory. Without enough quality protein, mood dips, focus falters, and learning slows. Balance matters, not endless protein shakes, but steady inclusion of natural, whole protein sources. Carbohydrates matter too, but quality over quantity. Complex carbs from vegetables, whole grains, and low-sugar fruits release glucose gradually, providing steady brain energy. Compare that to refined carbs, which flood the system quickly, leading to jittery highs, followed by crushing lows. Stable energy equals stable cognition. Fats are often misunderstood. The brain itself is nearly 60% fat by dry weight. Omega-3 fatty acids, especially DHA, are critical for brain cell structure and function. Diets lacking these healthy fats show measurable deficits in learning and memory. Sources like wild-caught fish, flax, chia, and walnuts rebuild this essential foundation. In contrast, trans fats damage neurons, stiffen membranes, and impair signaling. Avoid them as though your intelligence depends on it, because it does. Micronutrients quietly play starring roles. Magnesium calms overactive neural circuits, supporting relaxation and focus. Zinc contributes to memory and attention. Iron helps deliver oxygen to the brain. Vitamins B6, B12, and folate prevent homocysteine buildup, which otherwise damages neurons. These aren't optional extras. They are essential gears in the machinery of thought. And the simplest way to ensure you get them? Diversity. Fill your plate with a rainbow of vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. Gut health deserves special mention. The gut-brain axis means what happens in your digestive tract directly affects mood and cognition. A diverse microbiome, fueled by fiber-rich plants, fermented foods, and minimal processed junk, produces neurotransmitters and reduces inflammation. Dysbiosis, an imbalance caused by poor diet, has been linked to anxiety, depression, and cognitive impairment. Caring for your gut is caring for your mind. Practical strategies make the science actionable. Begin your day with a breakfast that stabilizes energy, perhaps oatmeal topped with berries and nuts, or eggs with spinach and avocado. At lunch, choose a balanced plate: lean protein, colorful vegetables, whole grains. Snack on fruit, yogurt, or hummus with carrots instead of chips or candy. At dinner, aim for variety: grilled fish, quinoa, roasted vegetables. These patterns don't demand perfection, but consistency. Small daily choices accumulate into profound long-term benefits. It helps to think in terms of addition rather than restriction. Instead of obsessing over what to cut, focus on what to include: more greens, more water, more omega-rich foods. As the quality rises, processed cravings often diminish naturally. Your palate adjusts. Your body begins to prefer what fuels it best. Even the timing of meals matters. Late-night heavy eating can disrupt sleep, which in turn sabotages cognition. Align meals with your natural rhythms: lighter at night, more substantial earlier in the day. Intermittent fasting, for some, sharpens focus by giving the digestive system a break and allowing energy to be redirected toward mental performance. But the key is personalization. Experiment, notice, adjust. Think about energy crashes you may have experienced. Perhaps after a sugary lunch, your focus evaporated mid-afternoon, and you blamed yourself for laziness. In reality, your biology was hijacked by poor fuel. Now imagine instead a balanced meal of quinoa salad with salmon and vegetables. Hours later, you remain steady, alert, capable. That difference isn't willpower, it's chemistry. Nutrition is not only about performance today, but protection tomorrow. Diets rich in whole foods reduce risk of Alzheimer's and other dementias. Antioxidants from berries and leafy greens counteract oxidative stress. Omega-3s slow age-related decline. A smart diet is both offensive and defensive. It fuels peak cognition now, while guarding against erosion later. The cultural narrative often trivializes food, treating it as indulgence or convenience. But you know better. Each bite is a message to your brain. Either build, repair, and energize, or clog, inflame, and diminish. Daily intelligence is not divorced from daily eating. They are inseparable. So, commit. Stock your kitchen with foods that honor your mind. Plan meals rather than leaving choices to impulse. Hydrate as faithfully as you charge your devices. Pay attention to how different foods affect mood and focus, and adjust accordingly. This is not about perfection or strict dieting. It is about respect for the body, for the brain, for the future you are building. Picture yourself years from now, still sharp, still curious, still energetic. Conversations flow, memories remain crisp, creativity flourishes. That future isn't just the product of books read or workouts completed. It is also the result of meals chosen. Nutrition is the quiet architect of intelligence. Eat like your mind depends on it, because it does. Every day, 3 times a day, you are given the chance to invest in brilliance. Don't waste it. Stress presses down like an invisible weight, and even the brightest mind can falter under its pressure. You've felt it. The racing heart before deadlines, the restless nights replaying worries, the foggy thinking that comes when cortisol floods your system. Left unchecked, stress corrodes your memory, shrinks your capacity for decision-making, and dulls your creativity. But here's the empowering truth. Stress is not destiny. By deliberately practicing habits that manage pressure and nurture happiness, you can protect your brain and even expand its potential. Think of your prefrontal cortex, the command center for reasoning and planning. Under chronic stress, this region weakens, while the amygdala, the alarm system, grows hyperactive. That imbalance leaves you reactive, impulsive, and easily distracted. But when you learn to calm stress, you restore balance. Executive functions strengthen, focus sharpens, and emotional control steadies. This isn't abstract. It's measurable biology, and you have influence over it. Begin with the simplest practice: breathing. Slow. Deep breathing signals safety to your nervous system, reducing cortisol and lowering heart rate. Just 5 minutes of focused breathing can shift you from anxious chaos to calm clarity. Add mindfulness meditation, and the effects compound. Neuroscience shows that regular meditation thickens the hippocampus, a structure crucial for learning and memory, while reducing the size and reactivity of the amygdala. In plain terms, you become less rattled, more resilient. Nature is another antidote. A 20-minute walk among trees lowers stress hormones more effectively than hours in urban noise. Sunlight regulates circadian rhythms, boosting sleep quality and mood. Even small doses, a stroll in a park, tending plants on a balcony, reset your nervous system. Nature doesn't just calm, it restores perspective, reminding you that life is larger than your current worries. Gratitude works like mental medicine. Writing down 3 things you're thankful for each day strengthens optimism circuits in the brain. Gratitude shifts attention away from scarcity and threat toward abundance and possibility. This practice doesn't ignore problems. It equips you to face them with steadier confidence. Over time, gratitude rewires the brain for resilience, making setbacks feel less crushing and opportunities more visible. Don't overlook joy. Activities that spark laughter, creativity, or connection are not luxuries. They're cognitive upgrades. Joyful moments flood the brain with dopamine and endorphins, chemicals that enhance motivation, memory, and problem-solving. Think about the times you felt lighthearted and energized. Weren't you also quicker with ideas, more open to solutions, more engaging with others? That's not coincidence. Joy amplifies intelligence. Relationships also buffer stress. Genuine eye contact, supportive touch, shared laughter. These simple interactions release oxytocin, calming stress responses and deepening connection. Humans evolved in tribes. Isolation triggers alarm. By prioritizing regular social connection, you armor your brain against the corrosive effects of stress. This could be a weekly call with a friend, a family dinner, or joining a community group. Every connection matters. Yet resilience isn't only about adding positive habits. It's about removing triggers, constant notifications, overloaded schedules, toxic conversations. They chip away at your focus and drain mental energy. Create boundaries. Silence non-essential alerts. Decline commitments that scatter your attention. Protect pockets of calm in your day as fiercely as any meeting. Stress management begins with prevention, not just repair. Consider a daily routine of micro-practices, morning breathing exercises, midday walk, evening gratitude journal. Each takes minutes, yet each builds a cumulative shield. Think of these as deposits into your mental health bank account. On stressful days, you draw on those reserves. Without them, you risk running in deficit, burning energy you don't have. What about happiness? True happiness is not fleeting pleasure, but sustained well-being, rooted in meaning and growth. Studies using brain scans show that people who engage in purposeful activities, helping others, creating art, pursuing passions, activate networks that enhance attention, memory, and problem-solving. Happiness literally expands your cognitive capacity. Imagine your own flow activity, the thing that makes time disappear. For some, it's painting. For others, it's writing, coding, cooking, or music. In those moments, challenge meets skill, and the brain hums with focus. Flow is both joyful and productive, a state where stress dissolves and intelligence peaks. Regularly seeking flow activities is one of the most reliable ways to build long-term resilience. Now picture your life if stress ran unchecked. You would feel constantly reactive, drained, distracted. Memory lapses would increase. Relationships would strain. Joy would feel scarce. Compare that to a life where you practice daily calm, gratitude, connection, and flow. You wake grounded. You navigate challenges without panic. You end days with energy still intact. That difference is not luck. It is the outcome of habits. Practical steps make this vision real. Start tomorrow with 3 slow breaths before reaching for your phone. Take a brief walk at lunch, noticing the sky instead of scrolling. In the evening, jot down one win, however small, and one thing you're grateful for. Each action is tiny, but together, they tilt your biology toward resilience and happiness. The warning is clear. Unchecked stress erodes intelligence. But the opportunity is brighter. Intentional happiness multiplies it. By managing stress and nurturing joy, you don't just survive, you thrive. Your brain stays sharper, your creativity blossoms, your relationships strengthen. You move through life not as a victim of pressure, but as a master of resilience. Choose now to integrate these habits. Protect your calm as you would protect your wealth. Seek joy, not as escape, but as fuel. In doing so, you unlock one of the most powerful keys to becoming smarter every day. Your days are filled with choices, and while each seems small, together they form the fabric of your intelligence. Now it is time to weave all the lessons, learning, brain training, reading, sleep, music, exercise, productivity, nutrition, stress management, into a single daily protocol. A system that doesn't overwhelm you with complexity, but guides you steadily toward a sharper, more resilient mind. Intelligence grows not from one-time bursts, but from consistent routines. By crafting a personal protocol, you transform scattered advice into lived practice. Picture a morning designed with intention. You wake not to endless alarms and rushed scrolling, but to calm light filtering into your room. Instead of diving into notifications, you begin with 5 minutes of deep breathing, centering your nervous system. Cortisol, your natural wake-up hormone, peaks early, so you align with biology rather than fighting it. You hydrate immediately, replenishing your brain's water reserves after hours of sleep. Already, you are sharper than if you had grabbed your phone and coffee alone. From there, you enter your first block of learning. Perhaps it is reading 20 pages of a challenging book, taking notes, or reviewing an online course. This is your daily commitment to curiosity. By dedicating 30 to 60 minutes each morning, you build the habit of continuous learning before distractions intrude. Your brain is most plastic in the morning, ready to absorb. You feed it not with trivia, but with substance. Next comes movement, whether it's a brisk walk, a run, yoga, or resistance training. You engage your body to prime your mind. Endorphins rise, blood flow increases, and focus sharpens. Exercise here isn't separate from mental training. It prepares the brain for the productivity to follow. You return, not drained, but energized, ready for deep work. Work begins with structured focus. You plan a 90-minute sprint on your most important task. Notifications are silenced, workspace cleared, you immerse fully. At the end of the sprint, you step away, stretch, drink water, perhaps take a quick walk. You respect your brain's ultradian rhythm, alternating effort and recovery. This simple structure transforms your output without lengthening hours. Midday, you eat deliberately. A balanced lunch, lean protein, colorful vegetables, whole grains, healthy fats. Hydration continues. Instead of post-meal drowsiness, you maintain steady energy. If possible, you spend part of the lunch break outdoors, allowing sunlight to recalibrate circadian rhythms and nature to lower stress. You return grounded. Afternoons often tempt fatigue, so you use this time for lighter tasks, emails, routine work, planning. You protect your peak cognitive hours for deep focus. And now, you're conserving mental resources. If stress rises, you counter with a micro-practice, 5 deep breaths, a quick gratitude note, or a short walk. These resets prevent accumulation of pressure. Evening arrives, and you transition with intention. You play a musical instrument for 20 minutes, or engage in another creative flow activity, sketching, writing, or cooking mindfully. These aren't distractions. They are workouts for different brain circuits, integrating motor, emotional, and cognitive pathways. Creativity here is both joyful and strategic. Dinner is another chance to nourish. Again, whole foods dominate. Heavy, processed meals are avoided because they disrupt sleep. Instead, you choose lean proteins, vegetables, healthy fats, and calming herbal tea. Conversation at dinner provides social connection, another buffer against stress. As the night deepens, you prepare for rest. Screens dim or disappear an hour before bed. You wind down with a book, gentle stretching, or meditation. Lights are softened, room cooled, noise reduced. You protect REM cycles as though they were sacred, because they are. Sleep becomes not an afterthought, but a pillar of intelligence. This is a template, not a rigid script. Your protocol may adjust. Some days exercise in the afternoon, some mornings dedicated to creativity. The key is balance. Each day holds elements of learning, movement, productivity, nutrition, stress management, creativity, and rest. Together, they create a compound effect that reshapes your brain and your life. Consider how this protocol contrasts with the common default. Waking to phone alarms, skipping breakfast, rushing through shallow tasks, eating processed lunches, sitting all day, collapsing into late-night screens. That routine erodes intelligence, slowly but surely. Your protocol builds it every day. Skeptics might say they lack time, but time is rarely the true obstacle. It is misplaced energy. 30 minutes of intentional learning outperforms hours of scattered scrolling. A 20-minute walk sharpens more than another cup of coffee. An hour less of late-night distraction grants hours more of clarity the next day. The protocol does not demand more time. It reallocates what you already have. Think long-term. A year of daily learning equals 200 hours, enough to master new skills. A year of regular exercise lowers disease risk dramatically. A year of consistent sleep preserves memory and creativity. Over decades, these small routines shape a mind that remains sharp while others fade. Intelligence becomes less about IQ and more about daily choices. Personalization is vital. Track your energy, mood, and focus. Notice how different foods affect you. Which times of day bring clarity? What activities spark joy? Refine the protocol until it feels like a natural rhythm. This isn't about mimicking someone else's system, but crafting your own. The protocol should serve you, not the other way around. Ultimately, the daily cognitive protocol is about ownership. You decide not to leave intelligence to chance. You design habits that align with biology, psychology, and purpose. You become the steward of your mind. Imagine waking each day knowing you are practicing intelligence, not just hoping for it. Every action, every meal, breath, walk, page, or rest becomes a brick in the cathedral of your mind. This is how brilliance is built, not in sudden leaps, but in steady rituals. The protocol doesn't just make you smarter each day. It makes you the kind of person who knows intelligence is a practice, not a gift. Even with the best routines, life rarely flows perfectly. Deadlines collide, motivation dips, and unexpected events throw you off balance. The true measure of growth is not whether you avoid setbacks, it's how you respond when they arrive. Intelligence is not only the capacity to absorb knowledge, but also the resilience to repair your habits and continue forward. This section is about roadblocks, relapses, and the art of repair. Imagine this. You've been following your learning habit for weeks. Then travel disrupts your schedule. Days pass without reading or study, and guilt creeps in. Or perhaps you've maintained regular workouts, but an illness forces rest, and momentum evaporates. These are not failures. They are human realities. The danger is not in the slip itself, but in the story you tell afterward. If you frame it as evidence that you can't stick to anything, you spiral downward. But if you see it as a temporary detour, you quickly course correct. Psychologists call this the abstinence violation effect, the tendency to give up entirely after a small break in habit. One skipped workout becomes a month of inactivity. One late-night binge becomes weeks of poor sleep. The antidote is self-compassion, combined with strategy. You acknowledge the lapse without shame, Then re-engage with the smallest possible action. Miss the gym? Do 10 push-ups at home. Overslept. Read 1 page instead of 30. These micro-resets prevent a lapse from becoming a collapse. Another roadblock is overwhelm. When every lesson feels important, you may freeze, unsure where to begin. The solution is prioritization. Ask yourself, what single habit, if maintained, would have the greatest positive ripple effect on the others? Often, sleep emerges as the foundation. Without it, learning falters, productivity declines, stress rises, nutrition suffers, guard sleep, and other habits become easier. Identify your keystone, and when life feels chaotic, focus there first. Distractions form a subtler challenge. You might sit down to learn, but drift into scrolling. You intend to walk, but linger at your desk. These are not failures of intelligence, but of environment. Make distractions inconvenient and habits convenient. Place books on your desk, not buried on shelves. Keep water nearby. Silence non-essential notifications. Lay out workout clothes the night before. Small environmental tweaks reduce friction and gently nudge you toward the behaviors you want. Then there are deeper obstacles: discouragement, self-doubt, perfectionism. You may question whether small daily efforts truly matter. Here is where you must remember: compound interest. A single day of learning is negligible, but 365 days reshape your mind. Progress feels invisible until it becomes undeniable. Track small wins: pages read, minutes exercised, nights slept well. Over time, these markers reveal a trajectory upward, sustaining motivation when results feel distant. Some roadblocks come from external pressures: demanding jobs, family responsibilities, cultural expectations. You cannot control every demand, but you can carve moments within them. 10 mindful breaths in the car, a short walk during lunch, gratitude shared at dinner. Intelligence building does not require perfect circumstances. It thrives in fragments pieced together with intention. Anticipation is also powerful. Create if-then plans. If travel disrupts my workouts, then I will walk daily. If I miss my morning learning, then I will read before bed. These pre-decisions remove uncertainty when challenges strike. They transform obstacles into triggers for alternate actions rather than excuses for inaction. But even with strategy, setbacks sting. When they do, speak to yourself as you would to a friend. You wouldn't tell a friend. You blew it forever. You'd say, one slip doesn't erase progress. Get back on track. Offer yourself the same kindness. Self-criticism depletes energy. Self-compassion replenishes it. Think about resilience across decades. Life will bring illnesses, career shifts, losses, transitions. The habits you've built will wobble, sometimes collapse. But if you carry the identity of someone who values intelligence, you will rebuild. Each repair strengthens your capacity. You don't simply learn facts, you learn flexibility, patience, persistence. These are marks of true intelligence as much as memory or logic. Practical tools help here. Keep a journal not only of successes, but also of challenges and recoveries. Review it to remind yourself that setbacks are temporary. Share struggles with a trusted ally who can encourage perspective. Build routines with redundancy. For example, 2 possible workout slots, morning or evening, so one disruption doesn't erase the day's plan. Above all, remember this: growth is not linear, it zigzags. The smartest people are not those who never stumble, but those who consistently return to the path. Intelligence is forged in the cycle of effort, disruption, and renewal. Each time you repair, you reinforce the identity of someone who keeps going. Visualize this process. You miss a week of habits due to travel. Instead of despair, you return with a fresh notebook, new energy, and a refined plan. The break becomes a renewal, not a regression. Or you face a season of stress that limits learning time. Instead of quitting, you adjust expectations. Shorter sessions, smaller goals. Progress slows, but does not stop. This adaptability is itself a form of intelligence. So, when roadblocks appear, do not see them as barriers. See them as teachers. Each lapse, each distraction, each challenge reveals something about your environment, your triggers, your needs. Use that knowledge to build stronger systems. Intelligence grows not only in easy seasons, but especially in the act of repair. The path to becoming smarter every day is not smooth, but it is navigable. With compassion, anticipation, and persistence, you can transform setbacks into stepping stones. And when you look back, you will see that your intelligence was shaped not in perfect routines, but in the resilience you built when routines broke. You've built learning into your mornings, trained your brain with mental workouts, fed it with books, protected it with sleep, elevated it with music, fueled it with exercise, and structured it with productivity systems. You've nourished it with food and defended it with stress management. You've even learned how to recover from setbacks without losing momentum. Now comes the challenge of integration, how to carry all these pieces into a cohesive future mind. Intelligence isn't just a collection of habits, it's the way those habits reinforce one another until they feel like a single, seamless identity. Think of a symphony. Each instrument alone sounds fine, but only together do they create harmony. Your daily habits are instruments. Learning sharpens curiosity. Exercise fuels energy. Nutrition stabilizes mood. Sleep restores memory. Productivity turns effort into output. Stress management sustains resilience. Separately, they're valuable. Together, they elevate you into a smarter, calmer, more powerful version of yourself. Integration means orchestrating the whole. This begins with identity. You are not just someone who occasionally reads, or sometimes eats well, or sporadically exercises. You are the kind of person who values intelligence daily. Once you anchor to that identity, habits follow naturally. Decisions become easier, because they're not about isolated willpower, but about alignment with who you are. Skipping a workout isn't just missing exercise, it's stepping out of character. Choosing sleep isn't indulgence, it's consistency with your chosen self. Integration also means designing systems that link habits together. Psychologists call this habit stacking. You connect one behavior to another, so momentum carries you forward. For example, after brushing teeth in the morning, you read for 15 minutes. After returning from a walk, you hydrate and write down one gratitude. After dinner, you play an instrument or review learning notes. The chain strengthens over time, until breaking it feels uncomfortable. Technology can help, but must be managed carefully. Wearables track sleep, heart rate, and movement, offering feedback loops that reinforce progress. Productivity apps remind you of sprints. Nutrition trackers raise awareness. But tools are not the goal. They are scaffolding. Use them to support, not replace, your self-awareness. Over-reliance risks turning habits into mechanical checklists instead of mindful practices. The point is, intelligence, not endless tracking. Integration is also about rhythm across seasons of life. There will be periods when career demands spike, when family needs dominate, when health challenges intervene. During these seasons, you may not sustain every habit at full strength. That's fine. Integration means knowing which pillars matter most and keeping them alive. Sleep and movement often anchor the rest. Protect them first. Then add what capacity allows. The protocol flexes without collapsing. Consider the compounding effects. When you learn daily, you strengthen knowledge. When you exercise, you amplify learning by boosting blood flow and neuroplasticity. When you sleep, you consolidate what you learned and practiced. When you eat well, you provide the biochemical resources for those processes. When you manage stress, you prevent cortisol from undermining them. Each habit doesn't just add, it multiplies. Integration ensures you benefit from synergy, not just some. Now imagine a decade from now. You wake with energy, clarity, and focus. Your memory is strong, your creativity alive. Stress comes, but it no longer crushes you. You've trained resilience. Relationships thrive because you bring presence and stability. Your career or projects advance because productivity is intentional, not chaotic. And when challenges arrive, you adjust without collapsing. That future mind is not an accident. It is the cumulative product of integration. Warnings remain. Without integration, even strong habits can clash. Too much focus on productivity without rest leads to burnout. Too much learning without application becomes trivia. Too much exercise without recovery injures. Too much discipline without joy hardens life. Balance matters. Integration asks, how do these habits support one another? Where do they need adjustment? Where do I risk excess? Practical reflection cements this. Once a week, review your system. Ask, which habit felt strong? Which felt weak? Which synergy felt most powerful? Did exercise boost learning? Did poor sleep undermine focus? Use these insights to adjust. Small calibrations weekly prevent large derailments later. Integration also involves sharing. Intelligence grows when applied beyond yourself. Teaching others what you've learned. Modeling healthy routines. Encouraging colleagues or family. These acts solidify your own habits and spread benefits outward. Humans are social learners. When you integrate intelligence into community, you multiply its impact. And don't forget purpose. Integration is not just about efficiency, it's about meaning. Why do you want to be smarter every day? To advance in work? To deepen relationships? To contribute to society? Purpose ties the habits to something larger. Sustaining motivation through difficulty. Intelligence without purpose risks becoming hollow. Intelligence with purpose transforms into wisdom. So, step back and see the whole picture. You are not simply stacking random practices. You are weaving a lifestyle that continuously strengthens your mind. Every breath of calm, every page read, every step walked, every night of sleep, every choice of food, every spark of joy, they are threads in a single tapestry. Integration means stepping into that tapestry fully, living as the architect of your future mind. When you integrate, the question shifts. It is no longer, did I exercise today? But, am I living as someone who honors intelligence? The answer, built habit by habit, is yes. And with that, you stop chasing intelligence as a goal and start embodying it as a way of life. Now you arrive at the threshold, the culmination of every practice, every routine, every adjustment you've carried through. And you don't pause to bow or look back. You keep walking. Because the future mind isn't a distant altar you kneel before. It's the path you lay with each step. You no longer treat intelligence as something you either have or lack. You treat it as a craft, hands-on, iterative, alive in the present tense. You claim responsibility for it, the way a gardener claims a field, accepting soil and weather as givens while still deciding, every day, to plant, water, prune, and protect. Owning the future mind begins with a simple declaration you repeat under your breath. I am the steward of my attention. That sentence sounds modest, but inside it sits your entire manifesto. Attention is the valve that determines which ideas enter, which habits stick, which emotions take root. Protect it, and learning expands. Squander it, and brilliance starves. You choose to guard attention in small ways that compound, silencing non-essential pings, putting the phone in another room during deep work, sitting down with a book when the urge to scroll arrives. Each gesture is a boundary, and each boundary frees a little more of your future. You also accept that growth is cyclical. Seeds don't sprout the moment they hit dirt. They germinate invisibly. Your learning behaves the same. Weeks may pass with little visible reward, and then, suddenly, the presentation is crisp. The problem yields. The melody flows. The novel connection appears. You stop questioning whether the quiet, disciplined days matter, because you've seen how delayed harvests feed entire seasons. Patience becomes a skill you practice, not a trait you hope will visit. The manifesto you live by is practical. You keep one promise to your future self each morning. 15 minutes of reading, a brisk walk, a handwritten summary of what you learned yesterday. This isn't symbolic, it's structural. That single promise is a load-bearing beam that holds up the day. More beams follow. A 90-minute focus sprint when your energy peaks. Movement that gets your heart rate up. Hydration as faithful as breathing. Meals that stabilize rather than swing your mood. A wind-down ritual that cues sleep. You don't debate these anchors any more than a pilot debates pre-flight checks. They are how you fly. You choose difficult things on purpose. Not recklessly. Not to perform, but to keep the brain elastic. You say yes to the talk that scares you, the instrument piece just beyond your current reach, the language that tangles your tongue, the technical topic that once made your eyes glaze. The difficulty is the point. It stretches circuits, and stretched circuits remember. You stop measuring yourself by how comfortable you felt, and start measuring by how much of your edge you explored. Humility stays central. You let go of the myth that smart means certain. Certainty is a cement poured too soon. You ask better questions, especially of yourself. What don't I see? What assumption am I protecting? Where am I overconfident? You welcome correction as a resource, not a threat. Feedback is simply information you can use to update your model of the world. You don't defend old maps when the terrain has changed. You redraw. You widen your definition of success. You stop counting only the outputs, pages written, problems solved, workouts logged, and start counting the inputs that sustain them. Focus protected, sleep preserved, joy practiced, kindness extended. This isn't softness. It's systems thinking. Outputs wobble when inputs rot. When a day goes poorly, you don't attack the symptom. You check the system. Was your fuel chaotic? Did stress go unaddressed? Did you skip the pause that would have reset your mind? You fix the root, not just the branch. You also choose where to place your excellence. You could aim to be impressive, or you could aim to be useful. Usefulness wins. Intelligence applied to solve real problems, to teach others, to build tools and teams and art. That's the kind that multiplies. You start sharing your knowledge earlier than you feel ready, because teaching is the accelerant of learning. When you explain an idea clearly, you discover where your understanding leaks. You patch those leaks, and your competence rises. The bonus: generosity strengthens identity. You become the person who lifts others as you climb, and the climb becomes lighter. Your manifesto includes seasons of deliberate rest. You don't worship exhaustion. You schedule white space, walks without headphones, afternoons without agendas, one evening each week where you refuse to be productive. Idleness of this kind is not decay, it's incubation. The prefrontal cortex can't be on stage all day. When you give it the wings of rest, the backstage crew, the default mode network, builds sets for tomorrow's insights. You stop apologizing for this because you can feel the difference. Rested, you solves in minutes what tired you choose for hours. In the digital world, you practice discernment. The new tools can expand reach and compress drudgery, but they can also dilute attention and outsource thinking. You decide to use them as amplifiers, not replacements. You let technology carry the repetitive weight, so your mind can carry the conceptual weight. You choose creation over mere consumption, design over drift, intention over inertia. Ethics sits on your shoulder as you grow. Intelligence without conscience is cunning. Intelligence with conscience is stewardship. You align your growth with values that won't embarrass your future self. Honesty in the shortcuts you refuse. Respect in the debates you conduct. Care in the power you hold. You remember that the point of becoming sharper is not to dominate, but to contribute. The world doesn't need louder, it needs clearer. Your clarity, earned through these practices, can help. You treat identity as a practice, not a proclamation. Each night you ask a tiny question. Did I live as the person I intend to be? You don't weaponize the answer. You use it to adjust tomorrow's levers. Small deviations are welcomed as data. Big ones trigger redesign. This is the opposite of shame. This is craftsmanship. A craftsperson doesn't cry over a warped board. They reach for better tools and try again. You cultivate courage, not the cinematic kind, but the everyday variety that says, I will begin again. I will ask for help. I will tell the truth about where I'm weak. I will protect the hour that protects my mind, even when nobody else sees. Courage, in this sense, is fidelity to your future self. It is the refusal to let the urgent devour the important. You get good at endings. You finish books you started, ship projects, play the final measure of the song, close the laptop at the time you promised. In finishing, you free attention for the next beginning. Half-finished work is a tax on cognition. It hums in the background, draining energy you could use to think. You prefer clean closures and clean starts, cycles your brain understands. You learn to look farther out. Decisions made for the next 10 minutes often betray the next 10 years. You lift your gaze to longer horizons. You choose the meal that serves the next morning, not just the next hour. You choose the conversation that heals the next month, not the comment that wins the next minute. You choose the study that feeds the next decade, not just the next deadline. This is not asceticism. It's alignment with the person you are becoming, and you remain teachable. No matter how many books you read, you keep a beginner's mind. You let the world surprise you. Wonder is a nutrient. Cynicism starves intelligence. Curiosity feeds it. When you feel jaded, you prescribe yourself encounters with excellence, music that humbles, science that startles, people whose kindness rearranges your standard of what's possible. You let awe reset your scale. Picture your life 5 years hence if you keep living this way. Mornings carry steadiness, afternoons hold flow, evenings restore you. You're still learning new skills, still writing and building and helping, but with less panic and more presence. People trust your attention because when you give it whole. They trust your word because you keep your tiny promises. They trust your leadership because you model upgrade without arrogance. Picture it 10, 20 years out. Your memory is strong, not because you were spared age, but because you fed it daily. Your stories are generous, your instincts calibrated, your humor intact. Younger colleagues ask how you stayed sharp. You tell them the truth. You did not stay sharp. You sharpened. You put the blade on the whetstone most days and moved it in steady strokes, learning, moving, sleeping, reading, creating, resting, giving. You made a ritual out of intelligence. So you stand here, not at a finish line, but at a living line that moves as you do, and you accept the responsibility and the privilege. You will not hand your mind to chaos. You will not sell your attention for trinkets. You will not pretend that brilliance is a lightning strike you must wait for. You will build it, protect it, direct it. You are the architect of your future mind. You sign your name to that blueprint daily, with a page read, a problem solved, a mile walked, a boundary kept, a kindness offered, a light turned off at the right hour. The signature isn't loud, but over time it becomes unmistakable, a script written across your days that says, clearly, intelligence is a practice, not a prize. And you practice it now. You close your eyes, and the day loosens its grip. The city stills, or perhaps it hums. But either way, inside you, there is room. Room for breath to deepen. Room for the mind to rest in its own quiet weight. You remember the smallest victories, the line you underlined and understood, the walk you nearly skipped and then took, the pause that softened a sharp reply. They are not trophies. They are threads. And together, they have begun to weave a calmer, clearer fabric. You do not need tomorrow to be heroic. You need it to be honest. Honest to your attention, to your rhythms, to your limits, to your potential. You have learned what helps. Light in the morning, movement before overwhelm. One thing done with devotion, food that steadies rather than swings, a room that cools to invite sleep, a page that waits beside the bed. You have learned what harms too, and knowledge of harm is a form of protection. If fear arrives, you greet it with curiosity. If resistance appears, you offer it a smaller door, 5 minutes only, then we'll see. If joy knocks, you open widely and let it sit at your table. Because joy is not a luxury here, it is part of your method. You end the night by setting one intention you can keep, not 10. 1. Tomorrow's first brick placed before you sleep, somewhere ahead. An older you smiles with recognition. They remember nights like this, when you chose gently but firmly on behalf of your future mind. They remember how ordinary the decision felt and how extraordinary the results became. You are not waiting for brilliance. You are making room for it. You are not chasing time. You are shaping it. Breathe. Dim the light. Let the work of sleep restore what your waking work began. The garden is planted. Trust it to grow.